My name is Philip and I'm from India originally. My mom and dad still live in Chennai, and I have been a Christian all my life, including going to church every Sunday. And yet I'd like to say that I'm not a church leader. I've never been a pastor of a church. And so what I'm going to share is a bit of my own journey and somehow its connection to this thing called church. I'm from India. Christianity is not a majority religion in India. In fact, only about 3% of India are Christians. And Christianity actually came to India from around the time of Jesus, because Thomas, the disciple of Jesus, came to India and witnessed to Christians there in South India. And I actually grew up very close to the place where Thomas died. In fact, my house was close to a hill that is called St. Thomas Hill. And it is believed that Thomas actually was living in a cave there. Moving forward, my mom's side of the family were converted in the 18th century by German missionaries that came to work in a place called Trankobar, a German missionary named Ziegenbalg. And that's a fascinating story again of how the gospel came to India, how the missionaries led Indians to become Christians. And one of my ancestors was an early convert of Ziegenbalg. And I have often thought about this history that my family has. My dad's side of the family are Methodist. So when I was growing up, my mom and dad got married in a church. Going to church was such a fundamental part of our family life. There was very little that was more important than going to church. In fact, to tell a quick story, if my parents bought us new clothes for Christmas or for birthday, you wore those clothes for the first time when you went to church. I had one incident where my uncle got very upset, my mom's brother got very upset because we came to church wearing a full sleeve shirt, but I had rolled it up to half sleeves, and for him it was showing disrespect to the church by folding your shirt up. It was very much a solemn, serious thing. I became a Christian in a personal sense. I made a personal commitment to Jesus when I was 17, and that started a journey for me that I'm still on. And in that journey, I've had a mixed relationship with church, and I want to be very honest about that. I can't go into all the details. I had a season where, like many new Christians, church was everything. My friends were in church, my social activities. I was quite church-centric in my life, in my Christian life. But then, fast forward about 10 years, I went through a difficult time. I can only describe what I was experiencing like having had a car crash. My spiritual life sort of fell apart. I never gave up believing in Jesus as my personal Savior and Lord, but hate would be a strong word to use, but I do want to use that word hate, not because I hated the church, but there were things about the church I could not stand. So I would go to church on a Sunday morning, the church that I was a part of. I would stay there till worship finished. We used to have sung worship. We'd do a lot of worship songs. I really enjoyed singing these songs, many of them. But then once announcements came and then the preaching started, I would leave. And the reason I did that is I couldn't cope with anybody in spiritual leadership, because I had gone through this experience of being disappointed, being hurt. And it took a long time to get over that. And I share that only because I think we need to be honest about the struggles people in our culture, people here in the Netherlands have with how they experience church. Now, many times people stop going to church because they have come to feel like they can't believe in many of the things the church is into. But there's also some responsibility that we should take for how we do church. And sometimes the church feels like it's irrelevant, out of step with the culture, people that are judgmental, and leadership sometimes is too authoritarian. So there's all sorts of things that are going on. And I had my own experience of not wanting to be part of a church. But that was not where, for me, my relationship with the church finally left me. There was a third place that I got to, which I want to talk briefly about, is how I've come to have a conviction, a deep conviction of why I want to be part of a community of people I mean, the church is not just the building or the people in leadership. It's the people who share the values that I have, fundamentally the confession that Jesus is Lord. And by being part of a church, I am affirming something that I think is true, not in some cultural sense or in some, it's useful for my life. I go to church because when we have some sort of needs, people in the church will help us. It's not a means to an end. There's a deeper conviction I have about why the church exists and why, based on what I believe about Jesus, I want to be part of a church. And so it's this third phase that I find more complicated, but also more rewarding, because I know what the church is like. I've seen the mistakes, the things that are not working out, and yet I feel a deep conviction to be part of this imperfect thing called the church, because I believe the church is a witness to the world about who Jesus Christ is. The church is a place where the Spirit of God is at work. And I'm not perfect, and I know the church is not perfect, but on Sundays we are there. And church is more than what you do on a Sunday morning between 11 and 1. But it's the formation of relationships. It's the witness. It's that sense of mission to people who are on the margins of society. All these things combined together there's a deep conviction in my heart that for as long as I live, I will identify myself with this very imperfect, sinful, human but divinely birthed reality called the church that belongs to Jesus Christ.